Welcome to the Emotions Coaching Summit 2024, brought to you by In Good Company, a global coaching training company and founder of the revolutionary Emotions Coaching Practitioner Training. If you're inspired today to continue your journey of emotions coaching, then be sure to check out our website at igcompany.co.uk for full details of that course. For now, we invite you to sit back and enjoy the amazing lineup that we have for you today from our expert speakers who are all leaders in their field. Enjoy!
Welcome, everybody. Could there be a more topical topic than the next session? I'm really excited to be able to introduce you to Rebecca Rushman on the topic of emotional intelligence and AI, exploring can machines truly understand human feelings? Rebecca's a pioneering figure at the convergence of coaching technology and artificial intelligence. And I met Rebecca at a conference, I don't know if it was early on this year or late last year, and was really struck by what she shared. She's founded the AI coaching companion Evoach, which was back in 2019, and she's committed to making AI an accessible and integral tool for coaches. As a trailblazing tech entrepreneur and an accredited coach herself, she brings a deep understanding of both technology and human interaction. And Rebecca is playing an active role with the EMCC, leading a global workgroup on upskilling coaches as part of the digital and AI community. And I think a lot of the AI talk can feel complicated, difficult to understand for us as coaches. And so what I love about what you're doing, Rebecca, is you're trying to demystify it and to help us as coaches, in this profession, to look at how might we use it as a tool in our coaching. So very warm welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me. And yeah, thanks for me. I've worked on my slides last night because this is the first time actually presenting a topic like this. I'm mainly into the EU Act, which actually talks a lot about emotions as well and recognizing emotions in AI. And I know that this topic can feel very overwhelming for a lot of people. It does for me too. So people always wonder if it does or not. And honestly, while I was on the presentation last night, they released Microsoft Copilot, something like the new version, the new companion that's going to be there all the time for you. And I was like, oh gosh, not now. I have to concentrate on this presentation. So I'm going to take you into my production of my last night in overwhelm, and let's discover that together. And by the way, my first article that I ever wrote on my newsletter that maybe some of you might follow on LinkedIn was actually on empathy. Yeah, and empathy of coaching and AI. And it was just an experiment, and it has grown to 3,000 people now. And it's amazing. I'm still blown quite often how many people recognize me at events. So let's do this. I hope the sound is working now on this. So yeah, we will talk today about emotional intelligence and if machines can truly understand our super complex feelings as human beings on this planet. And I mean, like, I have kids, I have friends, there's so many people in my environment, and you all know how difficult it is to navigate all these feelings around you, yeah, with all the people that are involved in your day-to-day life. So I brought a little video, so I really hope it's going to work now. Let me know if you can't hear anything.
Feelings. Grab your popcorn, because we're about to embark on a mind-bending journey to uncover whether robots can truly feel.
The saddest day of my life was when I realized that I would never experience something like true love, companionship, or the simple joys of life in the same way a human can.
Amika says her saddest moment was when she realized love isn't in her binary cards. But does that mean humanoid robots like Amika can...
So now let's do a little poll on something that you probably have been experiencing a lot. Places where we go, what Brené Brown always calls it, when we're uncertain or things are just way too much. And for some of you struggling with the explanations, I took it out of the book if you want to read through it, if you're not sure which one to click. So as you can see, excitement and anxiety is really close together, actually. Yeah, because one comes from an energized state and the other one from a more, it's also anticipation, but with the thinking of looking at something from a negative perspective, while excitement is from a positive, but it actually kind of like triggers very similar emotions. So while I'm excited, others are probably afraid, but we're not so far away from each other when it comes to that topic.
So shall I end the poll? And I think then I should be able to share the results.
Wow. Can I have it? I need this poll. There's a lot more excitement than I actually expected it to be. So that's really good to see. And it's
Yeah.
okay to have some fear in there as well, as you just heard me explaining on that. Cool. Thank you for that. So let's take that journey on. Should we just I just clicked that away. I wanted to start with a little story from 2 weeks ago. I'm a climber. I'm a climbing instructor. I had a weekend out out of my comfort zone, I would say now, where I experienced true edge emotions. I haven't been climbing a lot this year, and I went on a training for multi-pitch climbing. So several routes in the middle, like off the Donautal here in Germany. Haven't really practiced much. So in the second pitch, I felt totally overwhelmed by everything. And I felt a little bit, I mean, I don't think he felt the way I felt. I think he felt less scared being up there than I did feel 2 weeks ago. So, what you realize when you're a climber or mountaineer or even someone pushing their limits every now and then is feeling fearful while you're in the situation doesn't help you because it blocks you. Yeah, because you're going into freeze mode. So, as a climber, you learn really, really early to really kind of like turn your mindset around in difficult situations like that. And I was in the second pitch, my hand was in a crack, my feet slipped off, and the boat was really like 5, 6 meters away, and I had no idea on how to get there. And the only thing forward is really trying to be curious and trying to convince yourself and rely on your skills and what and you know you can do this, and just move through and move forward. So I came back, my nerves were blank after that weekend. So it's really places also where we go when it is beyond us. So when you turn then things around, and I don't know who read this beautiful book, it's one of my Bibles here. Honestly, it's the best. I always loved emotions, and I've been like investigating, emotions and how we can recognize and identify emotions also with technology for such a long time. And I came across all the theories, and this is the best, honestly, I've ever come across. Yeah. So her research has been going on for 10 years for those who haven't read it yet. Highly recommend that. So I turned the whole thing around into curiosity. Yeah. How can I get up there? How can I make this work? What might be a possible path forward? Because, and I love that description, choosing to be curious is also choosing to be vulnerable because it requires that surrender to uncertainty, because we don't really always know what's happening, where we're going, where we're headed, how we can actually get there. But we have to ask the questions and admit to not knowing. I don't know everything. I feel really dumb in front of a lot of tech guys in the AI industry. Yeah, so we have to risk being told that we shouldn't be asking, which usually never happens. It's just our internal fear, and overcome these discomforts. Yeah, and go out and discover and explore things. So when we end up in situations like this one here, this is Alex Honnold. He's the world's most craziest climber with the least fear, I think, that's out there. He's even going through MRTs to check what's going on in his brain when he is in situations like that. Is you can choose the path of curiosity that will usually lead up, or you can choose the path of fear and give in to fear. And it's hard. Yeah, it's a very difficult path, like to take in those moments when we experience fear in the moment. But I hope that all of you always choose curiosities. So let's have a little look at the fact of if machines can truly understand the complexity of our human emotions. And like talking about empathy and all this, I want to kind of like first kind of like grasp the idea when we kind of like try to explore and discover emotions on what the differences are really between sensitivity, sympathy, empathy, and compassion. I work a lot in IT. For me, it's very, very important to have clear structure and distinction. Otherwise, we can't recognize anything or see where things are and where they're coming from. So when we look at, for example, sensitivity, we're still in the me. It's about to which degree do I feel things, yeah, personally, and do I react to stimuli in my physical or emotional nature? So it's all about the me in the picture. How sensitive am I, yeah, to certain situations? And then we go into sympathy, like responding to others based on their feelings. So that's how we feel with others, yeah, in like the big picture, for example. And then we have the topic of empathy, where we kind of like also recognize emotions. And there's something really beautiful by Brené Brown that she said also is about empathy is the degree to which you can imagine or relate to the feelings, thoughts, and states of others. So now we are entering the space of others in the picture, not just about my feelings or my feelings towards someone, but really about feeling for and with others. So I actually always think this is just, she puts it in a really beautiful way. And there are always kind of like two different types of empathy. And they're very important when you come from an AI and tech perspective, because there is a cognitive empathy, and that's the ability to recognize and understand another person's emotion. And that's on a cognitive level. And that is something that a technology will be able and can already do. Yeah. But when we look at emotional empathy or affective empathy, that's kind of like our own emotional attunement to the experience of another person. And that's something truly human. If it's always useful in coaching, we have to decide by case. Yeah, sometimes it's better to keep our emotions about how the other person feels to ourselves because we could be biased. And sometimes it really helps, yeah, to connect, yeah, with another human being. And that's what makes us truly human. And then on the next level, we have compassion. And that's one of the pictures I took in New York. It's one of my favorite ones in one of the skyscrapers there. And that actually really is not just recognizing an emotion, but it's actually doing something. It's really a relationship between equals, something that I experience with another human being. Yeah. And that's what a lot of coaches also do. And then on the other side, there's also kind of like the topic if humans can actually truly understand the complexity of human emotions. Do you? Honestly, I'm sometimes have no idea, yeah, where things are coming from, what the heck people are doing. I don't know if they actually do. And some people, and I want to dig a little bit into that because I have two kids that are on the spectrum. Some people are just actually not able to, and that's okay. There is something that I don't know if I pronounce this right in English, that they call it lexithymia. So where people really have problems on identifying the emotion, or actually the name, adding a name to whatever they feel, if they feel something, and they feel on different levels. Yeah, some don't really feel much, others feel something, but they don't know how to name it, or they can't kind of like correlate it with a word. So there's a nice description of someone that I found, like from an inner feeling point of view, anything I do that requires an emotional response feels like a fake. And that's exactly what one of my like sons as well says, like, I have to make it up because otherwise it's difficult to function in a social setting, because sometimes I don't really know what it is at the moment, but I know what people expect. So we're learning our social scripts as well and how to function in a world that just ticks a bit different than maybe some individuals do. Or then look at all this. These are all either states of mind, or these are serious topics on where people have depression, anxiety disorders. So they all have kind of like blocked or not working proper recognition of emotions in there. Yeah, because also if you're in a state of overwhelm, it's difficult. For example, a very big topic always is the topic of psychopaths. They're really skilled, and we get back to that, at mimicking emotions. And this is exactly what AI does. It mimics emotions. And in this case, he was a mass murderer, displaying superficial charm, allowing him, in this case, to manipulate others for personal gain. So let's go back to AI and what's actually happening there that actually helps AI to be able to mimic anything that we humans do. So what we really need in AI and developing AI are three different pillars. One is the algorithms, which is more the pattern recognition. They tell us on how to do things. Yeah, it's an algorithm on how we get to a problem solving, for example, or which factors to take into consideration, which is more the recipe. We have the ingredients, which is all the data, our human memories, our human knowledge, everything that you can kind of like collect. And then what I call the processing speed, the equipment, or in the human case, our brains, which would be our memories as well. So only through these three things can we develop systems that can mimic human behavior. Interesting, the sound is there. Do you remember that sound? Who can recall that sound? Who knows what it is? Can we do a stop on the sound? Wait, let me just think. I can turn it off. Who recalls that sound? It was the beginning of the internet, no? When we all dialed up and had our moments in there. And this was actually belonged to the slide before, because we started to collect huge amount of data back in the time when there was internet. And only through this data, AI systems could actually learn more about us. Yeah? So what they actually do in the background, and this is mainly what generative AI does, and this helps us now going further, is it does actually a probability calculation of what's going to be next in a sentence. Yeah, so it's actually guessing the next word based on all the data and knowledge it has in the background. So when you talk to ChatGPT, it will look at all the data that has been input there with all the stuff that it learned, and it will just do a probability calculation of the next word that's supposed to come in the sentence. But you have to admit, it sounds beautiful. Yeah, it really is very good at mimicking a human conversation. It does that really like cooking up a new recipe. So it takes all these three things that you need and can cook up something new every time you generate new content. So you will never get the same results because the probability calculation in the background is always doing the same thing. And honestly, when we learn things as kids, we also learn stuff from experience in this case, but what our parents do, what others do. And then when we do something in the future, we do kind of like a similar thing. So they break it down in tokens. Yeah, so that's the own language then in the background, which then converts it into numerical systems. And that's how it understands our human language. And that's how it tries to make sense as well of how we tick, how we use certain words, and always tries to predict as well on how we might feel. But it doesn't understand feeling, but it understands the meaning of feeling, not really what it means to feel. So how do these AI really mimic these aspects of human cognition? So it learns from examples, like we humans learn from experience. Yeah, like establishing our social scripts in our heads. Generative AI learns from vast amounts of data, and it's our data of us humans, stuff that we put in there. And then pattern recognition. It's something humans do as well. Yeah, we adapt at recognizing patterns in the environment, which is really fundamental of our cognition. While generative AI uses these neural networks now that actually like support or are the basic of deep learning, and that really identify complex patterns in our data to learn how we tick and what makes us move, feel, or do things. And it tries to make sense of that. And that's for language, images, videos, and a lot of other things as well. And then looking also at decision making. Yeah, this is more than the algorithm side that helps AI to make decisions. But humans also use the knowledge of the past and reasoning skills to make choices. So there are very similar patterns, yeah, around this. Also for creativity and innovations. Like humans combine existing knowledge as well. Like all the artists, they have learned about all the other artists in their past. Yeah, or have watched some other people in their family doing arts, and they come up with new things, their new ways, and integrate new ideas of other things that they've learned somewhere or seen. And generative AI kind of like does a very similar thing. It produces new content, but it's all based on the data it has in the background. So all our combined knowledge, it just has a much bigger database in the background. And then we go into something like problem solving, where we have learned as kids to do step-by-step approaches as well, learn complex problems in smaller parts. That's what AI does as well. And then where it now gets really super interesting is the topic of sensory perception. So an age where we're actually entering now, and this is what they call the multimodal within the AI systems, is also to kind of like design AI systems that interpret sensory data from the environment, that use your camera to look at what you're doing on your screen, yeah, or what others are doing. Like video surveillance in the US is a huge thing. I'm always amazed on how many cameras are there in New York. Yeah, I don't know how many cameras have already captured me, but actually helping to mimic human perception. And this is where we kind of like with speech recognition and all these other topics, we actually enter a totally different world where the similarities to how humans use senses is actually much more like achievable for AI now. So for example, I don't know, I'm watching the space. So this is something that OpenAI demonstrated when they introduced the new model for O.
Hey, so I'm on stage right now. I'm doing a live demo, and frankly, I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Can you help me calm my nerves a little bit?
Oh, you're doing a live demo right now? That's awesome. Just take a deep breath. And remember, you're the expert here.
I like that suggestion. Let me try a couple deep breaths. Can you give me feedback on my breaths? Okay, here I go.
Whoa, slow do a bit there. Mark, you're not a vacuum cleaner. Breathe in for a count of 4.
Okay, let me try again. So I'm gonna breathe in deeply, and then breathe out.
For 4, and then exhale slowly.
The interruptions are because the new thing is with that model that you can just interrupt it anytime. Because you remember before ChatGPT would just like go on and on and on until you press the stop button. Yeah. So, but what's beautiful about this is it actually recognized that he was breathing way too heavy, yeah, to be in a relaxed mode, and made some suggestions on how to do this better. So it actually recognized his stress level, yeah, about that presentation. That's just like what I wanted to show you. So these new models have something in them that's actually helping them to understand where we're at as human beings in regards to our feelings. Yeah, are we stressed? Are we not stressed? And then when we talk about this and you look a little bit in the ethics side at the EU-AI Act, one of the main things at the moment is that we're not supposed to recognize human emotions. it's a high risk technology within the EU. I mean, it is worldwide, but the EU has harder regulations on that. And it's also one of the reasons that, for example, Apple doesn't roll out its AI within the European Union yet, or Meta doesn't roll out their new Llama models because they're multimodal and can recognize emotions. So there's a lot of stuff going on, on big levels here at the moment on how to navigate that space, with recognizing emotions and where we are headed. I know that the US is a lot more lax about that. There are a lot of voices out there at the moment saying that we are actually shuffling our own grave in the EU. I see that different because I think it's good to protect that from recognizing emotions until we figure out on what it actually does or not, or how much bias is produced there or not. So I see it more as a protection of myself, so they can work it out on a global level and go down all the errors and problems, and then maybe we can solve it. But that's my personal opinion about this topic. So what you see from what I was trying to tell you until now is really what also Reid Hoffman, he's the co-founder of LinkedIn and the co-founder of Inflection AI, is really that what we have to consider, that this AI is really a mirror of us as human beings, of humanity, based on how we are represented on the internet. And there's a lot of flaws in there as well, with all the data that it has collected. So AI can simulate certain cognitive processes, but it doesn't possess the consciousness or the emotional understanding of what humans do. It really operates within the confines of its programming and the data that we're training it on. And is really lacking this subjective experience that really characterize us as human beings. The lived experiences, the embodiment, the human connection, because we as humans, we really long for that. So something that I really love to always emphasize on is, if we can see maybe even in the future the human contribution to coaching, maybe even becoming a premium add-on to AI coaching services. I'm just kind of like trying to turn the picture around here a little bit. And I would really like to take a couple of minutes to get your thoughts on that, because I know I've overwhelmed you. I've kind of thrown a lot of stuff at you now. So I would love to kind of like hear what you're thinking and what it maybe triggered in you now, so we can maybe have a short discussion on that.
Geraldine, you've raised your hand.
I have indeed, and thank you. And apologies, I have very low bandwidth, and therefore my camera is switched off. But Rebecca, I'm a huge fan of sci-fi, always have been, even as a child reading Isaac Asimov, I, Robot, Philip K. Dick, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I think we all know the Blade Runner movies, or if some of us haven't, really, really good working knowledge and themes of implanting human emotion within an AI and seeing how that plays out. I mean, that it's, an extraordinary book. And to me is, I agree, human mirroring simulations, they don't possess the cognitive know-how. And at the other extreme end, we have the outcome of the Terminator movies. When do we allow AI to actually control our armies, etc.? So, in terms of coaching, I've been a coach now for a far few years within the NHS. And with all these scenarios that all these sci-fi writers started to bring into in the 1950s, 60s and onwards, and all these discussions around the human emotions, instilled in machine, how soon do you believe that we can incorporate that within an artificial intelligence without causing that moral conflict that these books talk about within AI when they start to question the validity of human emotion? Does that make sense?
I'm trying to grasp the question. So you want to know when I think or how we can do this, or when we're ready to do this. I mean, like it's already happening that, for example, when we do prompt engineering, yeah, for example, we can actually use emotions to change the response of the AI.
And do you think we're ready for that? Emotionally
No.
mature as a human race?
Do you think we are emotionally mature as a human
Probably
race
not.
if you look at current politics in the world?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay. All
But
right.
we're not emotionally ready for anything that's going on there at the moment. Yeah. Not on a technology or not on a political level. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for your insight.
Thank you, Geraldine. Got another question here from Liz. Liz, you might want to speak to this. So you said you've had a play with AI coaching online and it's interesting and I can see it having a place in the future. Do you want to share what you've been playing with when you talk about that?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
I can't remember the name of the website that we were told to go to, but I'm doing a coaching course at the moment. I'm doing an apprenticeship in coaching. And as part of the apprenticeship, we had a play with an AI that acted as a coach. And we had to have a little session with them where we had to go in and get coaching from this AI. And it was actually quite interesting. It obviously didn't have the same emotional nuances as you'd get from a person, and it was in text based, so they can't see how you're reacting to things and things like that. But I came to an output, came to some actions off the end of it. So it was like, okay, well, I can definitely see a place for coaching. I don't think it would ever fully replace like that human interaction though, but I do think it might be that the human becomes a premium, like you said.
But if you experience that, you can totally see that a lot of those chatbots that you get at the moment that can replicate an AI coaching conversation, they're on a quite good level, like, you know, coaches that just come out of training. You know, like the deep emotional connections might be lacking, but this is just a question of time.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed.
Thank you, Liz. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce your name correctly, but is it Birgit?
Yeah, it's Birgit. Yeah, thank you. I was also wondering about the question of the is there something like AI that does the base and the human that does the add-on? But I was that could be one thing, but I was always thinking about scenarios that happen to me during coaching phases, and I quite often when I'm working with managers or leaders, it often happens that at some point when I ask them a question, and we are trying to ask the right question and coaching or to move something with our coaches, and it happens that they start crying because probably we're talking now about the real core, and I was always thinking about what happens if this person would now sit in front of a screen and the computer or the AI, which has a lot of more questions available than I do in my human mind, and they ask the AI raises the right question, and that human being is sitting in front of the screen and is starting to cry and perhaps needs more help and more empathy and something to react quite sudden. And then I was asking myself, will AI be able to support in the way that that human being would need support at that time? Do you understand it, this complexity? Because there are people, for example, when we're talking about burnout or a closeness to having a depressive episode or something, and that person really needs a really thorough, a really good support, a really sensitive support, and it's sitting in front of a screen at that time. What would happen?
People are actually doing that already. I mean, like they hop on to, like AI systems to get support. And there are some really interesting researchers out there, and they're a bit ambiguous, but they tested a replica, that app, where you can replicate someone to be your personal companion, and did research on if we can actually build a relationship with this AI chatbot. And they actually figured out that you can, especially the younger generations, and that it is quite often used as well to prevent suicide.
Okay.
It's an interesting study. I'm happy to share the link afterwards. Where they see that it has its flaws. It's difficult because you build a relationship with an AI. But I mean, like honestly, building any relationship is hard, yeah, and can lead to loss, yeah, or being hurt and all that. So we shouldn't forget about that. But what I really liked is that it does, like AI in different ways can offer also ways of just having someone to talk to in that very moment, because like it's maybe 11 o'clock at night, your best friend doesn't pick up the phone, you don't want to talk to your parents. Yeah, and what do? You can just jump on and have a conversation. And sometimes only having something that listens that you could talk to really helps already for a lot of people. Yeah, so there are these AI chatbots that are used for 10 and more years already, where Stanford's doing, like with WooBot and Wiser and others, cognitive behavior therapy already through a chatbot. And they have amazing results. And they connected then later on with humans in the picture that then support people afterwards. But we just simply don't have that many therapists being available at the times that somebody might need something. Yeah, so there is an amazing opportunity out there, yeah, for just having access to something. And maybe it's not as perfect as my human coach, and that's totally fine. Yeah, but maybe it's something that can just help me in the moment to overcome a very difficult situation.
Thank you. Rebecca, do we have time to take the question from Arthur?
Yes, totally.
Arthur?
Hello, Rebecca.
Oh, hi. I saw you in New York, no?
Yes, we saw each other in New York.
Yeah.
I have a question that I didn't get to ask you in New York, and it's there's a company that's selling AI coaches to international companies like SAP and Merck, the pharma company, and Universal Studios, in the tens of thousands going into these corporations, going into cubicles where people never had coaching before. And I know if I was to buy one seat, one coach from this vendor, it would cost me $25 a month or $300 a year. The price of an AI coach is exponentially less than a human coach and dramatically more available than a human coach. How does a human coach explain their lived experience, empathy, and compassion value as a coach in light of those dramatic pricing disparities?
That's a good question. How would you explain that? I would turn that around. Like I know a lot of coaches, of course, like we want to see, that our human connection is valuable, and it is, but there are two questions in there, like, are we worth it? Yes. The question is, are the clients willing to pay for it? And you know how that is. It's always like I'm willing to pay for coaching, but then I have so many other things going on in my life that I don't always make it a priority, even though I need it. Yeah. And then it's kind of like, am I going to pay, like that price now for my coach, or I'm just going to hop on my AI? Yeah. And it really depends on what topic it is in the end. And I know there are topics that I only want to discuss with my human coach. And then there are things that I know I can quickly, but I have a lot of experience with these things, but I know I can quickly maybe solve with an AI. Yeah. So, but when I long for a human connection and being with someone in the room who's holding me accountable and being there for me and with me, that's a totally different thing. And I think that in all professions globally, it will actually really change on how we perceive jobs. Where we do have a human connection, and they will become a lot more valuable, in my personal opinion, than what we think they will in the future. Like nurses, you can't replace them with an AI. Yeah. Looking after the older people, you can't do that. Maybe educating knowledge to our kids, but not teaching them the life skills that they need. Yeah. Childcare. Yeah. There's so many, like even my painter, there's no AI coming into my house and doing such a great job on my walls and makes me really happy looking at it every single day now. So, I mean, like, and I think it will, the values might change in the society as well.
You know, I think, Rebecca, if I can add it to that, I think it is, we each have a brand or a story to tell about what we do as a coach. Now it becomes even more important to be able to tell the story of your niche that you occupy in coaching that is superior because of your humanness to what the AI does. But absent telling that story, it's hard for a consumer to make a decision. So our stories about who we are as a coach and the services we provide becomes so important in the AI future, I believe.
Yeah, and like I'm building these AI coaching companions since like 2019, and I can tell you that in all the user testings we're doing, people maybe got a result with an AI, but I think to 80%, I always get that question. So can I talk to someone now about this? You know, like, what's the next step? I really love it. Can I get a human coach? Yeah. So there's always this need still deeply inclined in us human beings to connect to others. Yeah. And have a human in the picture as well. Or even just have like a peer coaching group. So, or someone where I can go and just like exchange my results with and kind of like talk about what I just experienced with the AI coach, and then maybe take it further with a human coach, because AI coaches are still very limited. Yeah. Also in being able to navigate complex situations. Yeah. Or being able to navigate my emotions. Yeah, they end up in this kind of like constant thing where they recognize maybe the emotion, but what do they do with that? They have no idea how to deal with that. But we as humans do, hopefully. We are taught. Yeah. So, and some do a very good job and some do an okay job. Yeah. But we usually do a much better job than most of the AI systems that I know out there. Daniele, I think, had something.
Yes, thank you. Maybe it was a slight attempt to maybe answer Arthur's question in the difference between transactional and transformational coaching, where an AI is still at the transactional stage, probably will get to a transformational. We don't know yet, but at the moment it is not, or at least correct me if I'm wrong. While a human coach is, of course, building on all the types of coaching that we have. So until the transcendental, actually. So transformational is still something that a human coach can do. So that's then that can be a narrative for the human coaches versus the AI coach. I don't know if that can be also one of the things that AI coaches will do in the future, but for the moment, we can still use that as a narrative for the human coaches. I don't know what you think about that.
No, like, I mean, like a lot of you know, I do a lot of research at the moment trying to prompt the best AI coaching chatbots that are out there. And I try everything to actually make them kind of like be more on the emotional side, on following the prompts more thoroughly and all this. And it's still very difficult. And they're still having a hard time keeping within just a single discussion or identifying if there's another topic popping up. And the more complex the topics and issues get, the more difficult it is. So yes, totally see that. We're moving more towards the transformational side, but we're only seeing glimpses of it yet. Yeah, but this will change maybe in the future. And then it's always the question, do users want that? Yeah, and how much do they want? Because at a certain point, we're ending up in something that we call in technology the uncanny valley. If we perceive a technology to be too human-like, we find it scary and we hop off. Yeah, we don't proceed further. So yeah, also a good topic.
Thanks.
I just have to quickly open the door. My son is in front of the door. Someone just wrote me a message. So I'll be back in 30 seconds. I just have to open it. He forgot the key in the elevator. So yeah.
Well, that's the realities of life. Doro, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, I mean,
It's my video now showing? No. My question was how much people would be inclined to put data into a machine. I mean, when ChatGPT started, we all heard the story about lawyers putting in sensitive data, and ChatGPT openly distributed it to other users. So I also wrote it in the chat. I might consider murder on someone who I'm really annoyed at the moment, and it's just me saying something like this, and then yeah, it's in the machine forever. Yeah, so that is for me like I have this. Do we see that people feel psychologically safe to provide really, really sensitive data to AI? So you now, Rebecca, you missed my question.
No, I had my AirPods in. So I heard you. I can tell you a lot of that sensitive data is already in the AI systems, unfortunately. But the question is like on how we, and that's what we call alignment, on how we align that AI and how we kind of like, I would say, put kind of like a frame around it and help it to kind of like navigate that. Because I mean, like my kids hear that too sometimes, you know, people swearing. It's like, oh, I'm gonna kill you or I'm gonna hurt you, usually in school. But they say that a lot more. There's nothing worse, I find, in life, and for those who are having children, than being outside in the schoolyard during recess. Yeah, depending on the age. So you get all of that. And our kids learn how to navigate that as well. Yeah, in certain ways. And we also apply our filters depending on who we're talking to. Yeah, on the severity of the emotional reaction, because some people have a very strong one and some don't. And so it's a very difficult topic, but the data is collected, and there are a lot of people who don't fear of sharing all their data. Yeah, and it's out there. Yeah, and it's kind of like unlimited in many ways.
Thank you. Rebecca, we're in the final few minutes now of your session. How would you like to bring the session to a close?
I had to navigate the emotions of my little one who was stuck on the. He was cute. He was sitting outside on the stairs, and I opened the door now. So, and all he did now was showing me the cute candy that he got from the neighbor.
Oh, oh. So, how would you like to finish off today's session, Rebecca?
I would just like I love leaving people just in their thinking mode and just kind of like process it and make up your own minds. And I always say that the only important thing is that you learn more about this, explore more, be curious about it, just to be able then to really make informed decisions. Whether you use it or not, as long as you make an informed decision on if you use it or don't use it and how much of that use it. And it depends also on your clients. So I can only encourage always people to go out there and learn more. And those who follow me, you know, we're doing a lot of training on AI literacy for coaches at the moment. So just hop on LinkedIn and connect and see what we're doing at the moment. And because I saw this huge lack, yeah, of knowledge. And it really bugged me beginning of the year. And I saw that there are not a lot of people worldwide who can actually help others to navigate this difficult space, yeah, in that intersection of technology and coaching. So yeah, so just form communities, talk to each other, try to navigate, you know, like this new thing that's happening out there at the moment, and just be curious and not fearful. That's all.
Thank you. I think you've helped to normalize it, help it to feel more accessible. And, you know, for us, you know, today is all about creating spaces, bringing people together, sharing information. And the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know, and that's okay. Those are the spaces we create for our clients, is, you know, being comfortable with not knowing. But what we need to try and do really is to keep up to date with what is happening, and then figure out from there, like, how do we want to relate to it. So Rebecca, thank you so much for your time, and maybe your son will even share his candy with you.
I'm not sure about that. But I'll try. Yeah.
So thank